Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns.
Hello and welcome to Keto Life Support. This is Kim Howerton with episode number 178. We need to talk about paper plates. All right, guys, this is just a quick one. And I was having a conversation about this the other day, and some of you might be offended. But we're going forward anyway, because what am I here for if not to provide entertainment? And what is irritation but a form of prickly entertainment? All right. So I've talked about this before. I don't know if on the podcast, like on social media, whatever, but I did not grow up in a paper plate using family. I mean, we use paper plates for like children's birthday parties, picnics, very specific uses. But if we were having dinner, it was on plates you had to wash. And so one of the things that I noticed when I started going on social media more around food stuff was, gosh, a lot of people use paper plates, and not just occasionally, it appears. Like I see people serving their family dinner on paper plates, or themselves dinner on paper plates, or lunch or whatever. And it just struck me. I was like, oh my gosh, people, I literally just, it was strange to me because paper plates in my mind had been a very specific thing that used in very specific circumstances. And it just never occurred to me people were pulling them out to eat on a lot of the time. It's always sort of rubbed something wrong in me because I'm like, that's not how you do things. And gosh, if you know me, you know I have opinions. But I started then thinking, well, maybe that's just like some sort of bias. Like maybe that's some sort of, just like maybe it's regional, different parts of the country, different socioeconomic groups. I don't know. Like maybe I have internalized some sort of totally unfair bias. And so I sat with that for a while. And because I will admit, I think we all can, but I certainly can have these kinds of underlying biases where I'm like, oh no, this is the way it is. And then I'm like, is it? Or is that just the way it is for me? But the other day I was watching TV and a commercial came on for like a burger place, I think. And they had put them on like the paper. You know how like burgers come in paper and like the papers were spread out. And my boyfriend was watching the same commercial and said, it would be weird if you're watching a different commercial. Anyway, he said they couldn't even put that on a plate. And it triggered something in my brain about like sort of like paper plates, stuff you can throw away. And I was like, junk food tends to come on disposable plates. And junk food really lends itself to not getting out the fine china, right? For sure. And then I started thinking, like, does this extrapolate? Does this go? Like, is there something about honoring your food, honoring your meal, honoring your food choices that extends to your choice of plate? And I think it does. And again, I'm willing to entertain another perspective on this. But I think getting out it doesn't have to be a fancy plate for gosh sakes, but getting out a plate that you have to wash. That's where I'm going to draw the line for your meal, putting your meal on a plate that has to be washed and using silverware that has to also be washed, like that will not be thrown away. And I'm not talking about when you're doing a cookout outdoors, like that would be silly, like in many cases. But if you're eating in your house, use a plate that has to be washed and arrange your meal on your plate before you start eating from it. I'm guilty of that one. I like to eat as I cook. It's something I work on, right? So When you're making a meal, make the meal, put the meal on the plate. Take the plate to where you're going to eat your meal. Sit where you're eating your meal. Eat your meal. Take your plate into the kitchen. And however you've arranged, if you have a dishwasher, if somebody in your family is the assigned dishwasher, if you're the assigned dishwasher, wash the dishes, right? I think there is a level of self-respect in using plates that have to be washed and in washing the plate, in completing the cycle. I think that is an act that is useful. I think that paper plates in a lot of cases lend themselves to being a little less self-respectful. And I know some of you grew up in households where this happened. I would ask yourself, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but I would ask yourself, does your family perhaps reflect this same thing? Like, were the foods chosen maybe not the most healthful foods that you could have in your body? And so while I'm feeling a little nervous that I will offend, I've said that like 12 times now because, culture is important and it matters, but there is a level of consciousness and mindfulness about plating your food in a way that's attractive, right? Like taking the time to be like, let me arrange this like I'm serving it to somebody that matters to me. When I'm putting this food on my plate, let me make it look nice, like I'm having somebody I respect over for dinner and I'm serving this plate to them. And then treating yourself with that same level of respect. I think that can have a big impact on some of the food choices we might make and some of the ways that we might feel about ourselves around food. And just in case anybody wonders, I grew up in a house where we washed our dishes by hand. We had a dishwasher. We never used it unless there was a party, but we wash our dishes by hand. So it's not like, oh, the maid did all the dishes. No, we washed our own dishes. I currently, and for the last 30 years have lived without a dishwasher. So yeah, so I'm not preaching what I don't do. So anyway, give yourselves a chance to try this out if you haven't, because I think it brings a level of consciousness and mindfulness to eating that might be impactful for some of you. So give it a try. And if you're like, nah, well, there you go. But at least I raised the issue and you can ponder on it for a while. All right, take care and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm thrilled that you're part of the Keto fam. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.